Hello YouTube. If you've been following this channel for a bit, you'll already know how obsessed I am with the Zeiss teleconverter for the Vivo X200 Ultra and now the X300 Pro. There wasn't really anything else like that on the market, but that changes today. The Oppo Find X9 Pro is here and it has its own teleconverter kit in collaboration with Hasselblad. But how does it compare? Is it better? Is it worse? Let's try and find out. Okay, so let's start off with a close-up look at the teleconverter kit for the Oppo Find X9 Pro. It comes in two boxes. One's got the case and one's got the lens. There does seem to be like a grip handle accessory, but I didn't get that, so I'm not sure if that's launching globally or not, but there were leaks with that in, so there might be more to the overall kit, but this is what I've got to work with. So we'll start with the case. Comes in a very basic cardboard box, and it's an aramid fiber case with MagSafe magnets built in, a little orange Hasselblad style lens icon, and otherwise it basically looks like a normal phone case. In fact, here's the official Oppo MagSafe case that's not part of the lens kit, and it's almost identical. Very small differences between the two. There are extra holes in this one that I guess you can thread a lanyard through, but the only real difference is on this ring that goes around the camera module. There are little divots that I don't know if will show up on camera, just here, that the teleconverter kit locks onto, which I'll show you in a second. It's a really slim case, looks great on the phone. The construction is actually almost identical to the case I bought for my X200 Ultra, even down to the markings on the inside. So obviously I'm a big fan of these style of cases. Pitaka is basically the same, but I got this off AliExpress. So yeah, really love how this feels, especially compared to the X200 Ultra and X300 Pro cases. These are a bit plasticky, they're really chunky, and it's not the kind of thing I'd want to leave on my phone all the time. I just attach it when I want to use the lens kit. This though, you could leave this on your phone all the time because it feels great. It feels like just a premium case. Now for the telephoto converter lens, we get some documentation. You get an adapter plate which looks like it's made of carbon fiber or aramid fiber as well, but it's actually a metal plate, and this simply slides on to that ring and clips into place. You've got a little release lever here that you push to the side, and then you can slide it on and off. The first thing I noticed is there's no cutouts for the other lenses. So with the X300 Pro, you can just attach the lens with the bayonet mount, and then if you don't want to shoot with the lens, pop it off and you've still got access to all your lenses. This one has a really similar bayonet mount, but no cutout for the other lenses. So to shoot with the other lenses, you have to slide off the whole plate. Does that matter? Not really. I don't think it's any quicker or slower than the other method, but just a difference that's worth pointing out. Now here's the lens itself. It's extremely similar construction to the Vivo lens, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were constructed in the same factory. I did ask Oppo if Hasselblad made this lens or if they made this lens. Hasselblad didn't make it, but Hasselblad did approve it, hence the Hasselblad logo, and it's probably the same case for Zeiss and Vivo. If you view them side by side, they're really, really similar. They've got a similar knurled finish to make it look more like a big lens on each. The Hasselblad one is a tiny bit shorter. Both got a bayonet mount, but they're a different size. They're not cross compatible. And the Oppo is a higher magnification. So this one's 3.28x, whereas Vivo's 2.35x, but the telephoto lens on the Oppo is a 3x, whereas the telephoto on the Vivo is 3.5x. So when the lens is actually attached, it's quite a similar field of view. I think it works out to about 230 millimeters, whereas Vivo's 200 millimeters. But yeah, very similar system. You've got a dot on the bayonet mount and a dot on the lens. You line them up and you twist to click it in place, and then it's attached to the phone. Not much in the way of wiggle, tiniest bit, but compared to that kit for the X200 Ultra, this is very solid. I like that the lens cap is one of these squeezy types as well, so you squeeze it to pop it on and off, whereas the Vivo lens is just a basic cap. It doesn't screw on, it doesn't clip on, it's just push fit. A little less secure, I feel like this Hasselblad one is going to stay on a bit better. And we also get a lens collar with a 1/4-20 mount and the larger tripod mount that I forget the name of. Again, it's very similar to what Vivo gave you. The main difference is the Vivo is compatible with Arca Swiss clamps, which I quite like, but this one doesn't have those channels cut out. You can only use it with the tripod thread. To be honest, I don't really use these lens collars anyway. The X300 Pro didn't even come with one. This was just for the X200 Ultra. So I'm not too fussed either way, but if you want a perfectly steady shot, you might want to keep this lens collar handy. But yeah, I think that's about it for the hardware. Next we'll check out the camera app and then we'll see how this lens performs. So let's have a quick look at the camera app and how it works with this telephoto converter attached. Obviously, if you're using the wrong lens, you won't see anything because it's covered, but switching to the 3 times, you will see everything is upside down and pretty shaky, which is exactly how the Vivo teleconverter works as well. So what you have to do, I think you might have to enable it first in settings, but once you do, you go to more and there's a dedicated Hasselblad teleconverter mode. It basically works in the same way as the X200 Ultra, which is what I expected, but the Vivo X300 Pro surprised me by basically allowing you to use it in any mode with that little toggle button. This one's not like that, so you are a little bit limited in terms of the options that you've got for shooting. So we're in photo mode at the minute. I've got an EV compensation button down here. You can do motion photo, which I never do. Stage mode, if you're taking photos at a concert. You do have the different filters and film simulations available. Love to see that, because that was missing on the X200 Ultra. You've also got aspect ratio options, timer, HDR mode, interval shooting, and that's about your lot. So we're missing RAW, we're missing high res shot, obviously no portrait mode or night mode or anything like that. So yeah, it's a little limiting in terms of the software, and the same goes for video. So we'll just go through the options here. You can shoot up to 4K 60, no 4K 120. You have sound focus mode and focus lock in the settings. There is an ultra steady mode, which could be quite handy. And again, we've got quick access to EV compensation, which is also handy. But that means no log recording, no slow motion, except for 4K 60. Probably no support for external mics. Don't know, we'll have to try that. So yeah, Oppo of course could fix this with a software update and give you lots more options, but whether they will or not remains to be seen. As of right now, you're a lot more limited compared to the X300 Pro. So one thing I think is worth pointing out is the face tracking autofocus. I'm not convinced it's quite as good as Vivo's, but if there's actually a face, you will get a nice little box around it to show you that it's in focus. Oh no, it works in video too, you can see it there. It doesn't really work with the back of heads, you have to have the face in the shot. But when you do, it's pretty decent. Okay, I'm filming this on the selfie camera at 4K 30 frames per second using the built-in microphone, and it's set to its widest field of view. I'm at Bradgate Park, which is where I filmed my first video with the Vivo teleconverter, and we're going to hunt for some deer, hopefully get some similar shots to the last one. Obviously we'll have to see if they want to play ball or not. I've got both phones with me, but I'm not going to do a complete head-to-head comparison. Just going to take some similar shots and see how the quality compares. So let's go looking for deer. Okay, before we get to the wildlife, I'm just going to do a quick zoom test using this ruin in the distance. It has unfortunately got scaffolding on it, but for our purposes it will do just fine. So this is the main camera. Here's 3 times zoom. I'm pushing out to about 10 times, which is roughly what our teleconverter will give us. And at a maximum, 4K will let you go to 18 times zoom. If I bring it back to 10 times, just so you can see the difference, and I'll pop the teleconverter on. Okay, now I've got the teleconverter attached. This is our native focal length, which is about 230 millimeters. But I also got buttons. I can push it out to 20 times and I can push it out to 40 times. And if I use the slider, I can go to a maximum of 50 times. Now this is back out at the native focal length, and we'll see how the Vivo compares. Now we're on the Vivo X300 Pro with the teleconverter attached. We're starting at 200mm, and I've got 3 buttons. I can push it to 400mm, 600mm and 800mm. Now if I use the slider, I can go all the way to 1150mm, which is about 48 times zoom. Now back out to the default focal length.
No. Oh. Julian, come on.
Now here's a shot from the Vivo to compare, and I've noticed, at least in photo mode, I was getting subject detection for these peacocks. And you do get face detection with the Oppo, but it wasn't detecting these birds. So far all the deer are really far away, but at least that gives us an opportunity to test the digital zoom a bit more. See this big antler boy honking to all the ladies, I guess. Yeah, I'm not sure if the processing will clear it up, but it does look very soft when you're digitally cropping. And it's pretty good when you're out at 230mm-ish. Here's our peacocks that we've been filming. Finally found some deer. I am having to shoot over a fence, so I'm a bit limited on angles. This shot looks decent. This is at 10x. Now this is 20x. And 40x, which looks pretty minging. So push it back out. Focus looks good, not hunting as much. Now let's switch to the Vivo and see how that does. Now I've switched over to the Vivo. Some wonderful guttural sounds from that deer in the back. This is 200mm, pushing into 400mm, 600mm and 800mm. Not looking great when you push it that far, but it looks pretty lovely at 200mm. Okay, quick test of the low light video. I'm on the main camera now. Ooh, struggled with focus there. We're at 3 times I'm going to push it out to 10 times. And then we'll switch over to the teleconverter and see how it compares. Now here's with the teleconverter attached, and I can already see it's a lot clearer. Should be less noisy as well because we're actually using the full sensor. Let's push in a bit further. As we saw in the day, it doesn't do great when you push in further. But at 10 times, that's a pretty big difference, I think. Alright, time to look at some photos, and we'll start with a quick side-by-side at night. On the left, we've got a shot without the teleconverter, and on the right, we've got the shot with the teleconverter. At a glance, neither are looking too impressive. It was a really dark location, but we saw what a big difference it made in video. Let's see if we get the same difference in photos. The first difference my eyes were drawn to is the text on this awning that's outside Pizza Hut. You can read the whole thing with the teleconverter. It's all pretty clear. It's a complete mess without the teleconverter. It's just pixelated and blurry, and it's the same case over this side of the image too. Same with the number plates on the cars. You can read that perfectly fine with the teleconverter. You can't without. And that's purely because when you're using the teleconverter at 230mm, you're using the entire sensor, so it can bin down, get a lot more light in, whereas when you're cropping in to an equivalent focal length, you're getting a lot less light, so the processing's really having to do some heavy lifting. So yeah, at night, if you're shooting around 230mm, it makes a pretty big difference when you use that teleconverter. So now we'll look at some long-range zoom shots in the day. Not the best lighting conditions, it was pretty dark and cloudy. On the left, this is just for context. You already saw it in video, but this is on the main camera. This is showing where I was standing. And this is at 230mm digitally cropped from the telephoto, and on the right is with the teleconverter attached. And there's a pretty big difference in clarity. Like if you look at the tiles on the roof, look at the brickwork, it's a lot clearer, a lot cleaner on the teleconverted shot. I think it's especially noticeable with this bench down here. That looks grim on the digitally cropped shot, whereas it's pretty plain to see on the teleconverted shot. And if we continue to push further, this is at 20 times zoom, we're probably going to see more of the same. See the AI kicking in on the digitally cropped shot. It's made up this weird texture for the brickwork, whereas you can actually see the individual bricks on the teleconverted shot. And at maximum zoom, both of them look grim for different reasons. This one is almost completely fabricated by the AI. You can turn that off, but it will look even worse. And yeah, the teleconverted shot is just a blur, which is more like what you'd see if the AI was off. As I found with the X300 Pro, the long-range zoom isn't really the reason to use this lens. It's much better for sort of middle distance portraits, street photography, wildlife, things like that. Photos where you're a bit closer to your subject, I think it makes a bigger difference. But it does make a difference for zoom, especially at 230mm where you'll get the best from it. Now just a quick side-by-side with the X300 Pro. The X300 Pro is on the left, and yeah, it's 200mm equivalent, while the Oppo is 230mm equivalent, so a bit more zoomed in with the Oppo. Obviously a pretty big difference in colour between these two, but that's just, you know, the tuning of the phone. Zooming in a bit, I like what I'm seeing more from the Oppo, to be honest. The Vivo just looks too sharpened. It's a bit unnatural looking. Oppo's a lot cleaner, at least at the native focal length. And when we push a bit closer, now I feel the opposite. This one, I believe, is somewhere around 40 times zoom. And here the sharpening is really helping the Vivo. It's much cleaner than what Oppo's given us. Oppo's looks a bit blurry and soft. It's the same when we push in a bit further. Pretty big difference. I do think some of that is like AI processing from Vivo, but it's doing what you want it to, right? It's looking clearer. And yeah, at max zoom, it looks way better, but I think it's kind of all made up. These bricks look like brand new. It's like this is an ancient building. You can quite clearly see that the bricks aren't perfectly straight on the Oppo shot, whereas they've become perfectly straight on the Vivo. So yeah, mixed feelings about that. The clarity is better, it's more impressive, but it's also kind of made up. I think you can probably enable that AI on the Oppo shot, but I didn't for whatever reason. But yeah, let's move on to some other photos. Okay, these photos are in no particular order. I'm just going to go through some that I particularly like. I wanted to show this one because you feel quite funny walking through a park with a big honking lens sticking on your phone. One of the first people I saw was this guy with literally the biggest camera lens I've ever seen. And Suddenly, I felt a little inadequate, you know. This one was taken at the native 230mm focal length with the teleconverter attached. And just as we saw with the Vivo, you get some nice subject separation. Like there's a nice subtle softness to the background, which gives a kind of 3D effect that you wouldn't typically get if you were just digitally cropping on the telephoto sensor. And as you saw in the video, you do get face tracking, which makes candid shots of people pretty easy. Autofocus is really quick. I'm not sure if it's quite as quick as Vivo's, but it's pretty damn close. Here's a shot of someone's dog while I was trying to frame up the peacock, but this handsome chap rolled into frame and I couldn't resist taking a photo. Really nice detail. I love that you can see the individual bits of fur sticking off him. Nice shallow depth of field, lovely soft creamy background. It's these kinds of shots that you can't get without the teleconverter. You'd need to use like portrait mode or something, but the natural compression of the lens, just you get this very DSLR looking shot from a phone, which is for me what it's all about. Quite like this shot of these two peacocks on the old stone wall. Same thing I was saying in the last shot. Lovely sense of depth. I like that we got the out of focus foreground and background. It really adds to the depth of the shot. And really sharp on this guy in the front. Maybe not perfect eye autofocus. That would be my number one wish. I wish you could detect eyes with the autofocus. Maybe we'll see that in the future. I think this one might be even better. Lovely and sharp. Oh, this one I'm really happy with. And this is one where that compression is really making a big difference. Because if that background was more in focus, it would be a much less impressive image because the colors of the bird would blend with the foliage, if you know what I mean. But this one's sharp as a tack. Look at that eye. You can see the reflection of everything in the eye, how the individual fibers of these feathers are coming through. Yeah, it's just a great shot, that. There's the first deer we spotted, which I couldn't get too close to. This was the one I had to take over a fence, but I did get some better ones later on, actually. This one's looking a little over-processed to me. There's something a bit watercolory about it. It is quite nice, and the lighting was quite challenging because I feel like the grass was brighter than our subject, but the processing has brought it up a bit. That sharpening has just kind of made the fur look a bit unusual. It's absolutely not bad. We saw worse from the X200 Ultra when we first started using that. Still, quite a nice image, if not perfect. Quite a nice pose on this one. Our peacock's looking mean, kind of staring us out a bit. This is one of my absolute favorites. Same subject, but we managed to get a bit closer without him flying off. And just look how sharp it is on the bird's face. You can see all the texture of the skin. Again, all the little hairs of these head feathers. And the bokeh is a little unusual because of the square lens opening, but I think it looks pretty good still. This one might be even better. Very similar shot, just a split second later. But it's all about trying to find the image that got that perfect focus on the eye, which is quite challenging. It also took a few street photography style snaps. Obviously we weren't on the street, we were in the park, so I guess it's park photography. This old couple sitting on a bench. The face tracking obviously kicked in on this one. Super easy focus, just point and shoot. It's just a pretty solid shot, I think. Lovely compression, lovely sharp details, nice lighting. And one more, these two ladies walking down the path. I just liked her big old Gandalf stick. Yeah, pretty damn sharp considering they're backlit and they were walking along at the time. The long focal length means you don't have to be particularly close by, so it is quite nice for candid street style shots. It's a bit long in the city, but if you've got anywhere with a lot of space, you know, you can get some street style stuff with this. Now, these two legends who appeared just as I was walking back to the car, I was just thinking like, oh, I didn't really get any good deer stuff today, but these guys saved the day. So these aren't the best deer shots I ever got, but they're pretty decent. I'm quite happy with this one. Again, that compression's doing loads of favors for us because without that, this deer would really be blending in with the bracken in the back. Yeah, it's decently sharp and just kind of a nice pose from these two. I took a couple where I was a bit more zoomed in. I think this one's at about 20 times and it's a little soft and the processing's kind of sharpened it up a bit. It's not bad. I do think the photos are better than the videos when you push in with the video, but you absolutely get the best results when you stick to the native focal length for this teleconverter. And here's another one. This is again at 20 times zoom. This one's a bit sharper, but yeah, it's still just not quite as good as it is at 230mm. I think 20 times gets you decent results. If you push it to 40 or beyond, you're not going to get anything great. Okay, that's about it for this one. I hope you found it useful. Overall, I'm really impressed with the Oppo Find X9 Pro and its teleconverter kit. I think optically, the image quality is very similar to Vivo's. Vivo does a few things better, Oppo does a few things better. It is a real back and forth. In terms of software, Vivo's letting you do a lot more at the moment, but that is just software, and hopefully Oppo will open up the capabilities in the future. Fingers crossed for that. Only time will tell. But in any case, I do think it's worth considering and worth using if you can get your hands on it. I'm sure you want to know how the other aspects of these two phones compare, and don't worry, I'm working on a full comparison, which might already be out by the time this is out, might not, but either way, get subscribed so you don't miss anything, and I will catch you in the next one. Toodles!